if you want to ask a question in voice, just give us a heads up with a Q question mark in text. And we'll try it out. If there's a better way, we will. But what I want to go for is that we actually try to get closer and closer to the present moment. Literally, not only cognitively, but also in this present moment. For instance, Fran is working on creating a way that we can all see how long a present moment is. The present moment is approximately 250 milliseconds. We know it's more than 100 milliseconds because if something's faster than 100 milliseconds, we're not going to see it at all. In fact, the frame rate of modern movies is 41 milliseconds per frames per second. That's if it's greater than 50, if it's less than 40 frames per second, you can see it. You can see the flickering. But once you get to 41 or above, it's smooth. You don't see any flickering. So we know that the lower edge of present moment experience is 50 to 100 milliseconds. And then if it's more than a quarter of a second, 250 milliseconds, then you can have more than one present moment within a second. You can have basically about 4 present moments in a given second. And the example I like best is the flapping of a bird's wing. You can see several flaps of a bird's wing, not a hummingbird, but a big bird, within just the moment where you say 1/1000. So we have another talk that we do once a month that gives that full description of what the present moment is. But the most interesting present moments are our visceral sensations. And so that's sort of what I try to do in half an hour, is to see if we can all agree on what we mean about the actual sensations we have in our bodies in the present. Not our memories of what they were like the other day, residual annoyance of something that happened, or perhaps what we're thinking about, what we think we might be thinking or having sensations about in the future, but actually right now in this moment. And it seems like it is a confusing topic. It's very easy to confuse sensation with perception, or what we're thinking about versus whether we're actually still in the present moment or whether we're still thinking about it. So that's kind of what I try to get at, both by stimulating our curiosity about the subject intellectually, but then also by going into our own sensations and seeing what we're actually sensing in a given moment and what we can learn from and do about our current moment sense. And so there on that slide are the main sensations we get from our body. We get tension in our neck. That's the red in the back. Going downward into the throat, there's a purple section in the throat. We get a constriction in the throat when we're feeling sad. The blue in the middle, behind the sternum, we get a chest fist. We get a heavy sensation in the chest. When it's very severe, we call it a heartache behind the sternum. Below that, in the belly or the gut, we can get a kind of a butterflies or a racy, queasy sensation when we're feeling anxious or nervous. And then also in the groin, we can also have bladder pressure and sexual sensations, etc. And so the case I am making is that we would all be better off if we scan our bodies almost continuously, keeping a track of our sensations in our daily activity and using that information to make decisions going forward. And that's difficult for people because we don't feel we have control over that. We think of it as subjective, or it's unconscious, or it's not really real. And so it takes a little practice to learn how to do it. And that's the case that I make. And so if basically what I want to do is encourage questions about what this all means, and then also a volunteer on who wants to try it. I think what I'll do, I actually, I don't learn as much myself, but I'll just go ahead and sort of give kind of the beginnings of more of a lecture format and see if that does trigger any curiosity, or maybe I'll make everything sound kind of overly dramatic, and then that'll get a reaction. So this is a list of the different ones, and this list is impossible to look at, but if you click on the top little pink, looks like a pink postcard, On the right side of the slideshow are 3 pink postcards, and the top one is this table. This is the research table we use to collect the data. And then the middle one is if you ever feel like taking this survey, if you click on that one, it takes you directly to a Google Google Forms survey, where you can actually fill out a questionnaire about what you're feeling at this present moment on each of these 7 or so columns. And then the bottom one is actually the database. So all of these survey data get put into a Google spreadsheet database, and I basically collect this just chronologically, continuously, although there are a grad student at another place on Second Life that is collecting this data and someday hoping to use it for her dissertation. So these are all the different ones, and I don't want to focus on that per se, except to say it exists. But this is the one that we tend to focus on. So when we pay attention to our visceral sensations, and see the chat. So the racy-queasy sensation, we can rate it. We can rate how severe it is. So it's basically a 0 to 10 scale. The typical scale is called a Likert scale, which is 0 to 7. But this is basically meant to be a scale, though in addition, labels have been added for the range to kind of cue what your level of that sensation is. So the term that most people are most aware of is butterflies. So a sensation in the belly that feels a little bit like it's butterflies flittering there. For me, I like the term racy-queasy. It just feels kind of accurate to me, but it can sure go up from there to the point where literally we're quivering. And then I note that number 9 is ruminating. Ruminating is actually part of the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder. Ruminating means repetitive, unpleasant thoughts. And that is not technically a feeling. Thoughts are words in your head. They're not the actual sensations coming out of your gut. Still, I think it's important to have that category in there. And then obviously number 4 is ignorable. In general, you want to be ignorable. You want to be that if you think about your belly, well, okay, you can see that it's there. You can have some sense that there's some sensation in your belly, but it's ignorable. You can ignore it. It's only when it moves up to a 5, butterflies, that you can notice it. And the case I want to make is that's not the time to ignore it. That's not even the time to take a Xanax. That's the time to search out where it's coming from. Why have those butterflies started now? Something in the external environment? Is it something a memory that came into your mind? Is it some thought process you're going through? Why is it increased now? And then the next step is, what do you do about it? So the whole sort of strategy that we go through, and that's not the slide I wanted, nor is that. There it is. So basically, the proposal, which is actually based on our opioid prescription management program that we started in San Diego at Sharp and then at Cigna in LA, is that once you notice it, you can do something about it. You can find out what increases the sensation, not cognitively, but by bringing it into your mind, either a person or a situation that's in your current daily activity, and see which of those imaginings increase the sensation. That will tell you which is the source of the sensation you're having at that time, and then basically figure out when are you going to see that person again or have that situation come up, and have a plan to do something about it differently. And then see how that works, see whether it in fact lowers the sensation, even having the plan, and then does it also lower it when you actually engage and do the plan, and then using that as a strategy to deal with these sensations all the time. So the rest of these slides go through the process. So step 1 is, there we go. So we refer to, after you have the sensation, you then kind of scan your mind for the possible sensations, situations that are going on, a person or a situation that actually increases the sensation while you're having it in the moment. Not thinking should it or did it, but is it now doing it? And then deciding when is the next time you're going to be with that person or in sensation. It's not in an imaginary way, but actually literally. So often a person will say, well, I don't know, they're kind of in control of that, not me. That's a step that has to get taken. You have to then decide that you are going to initiate it, or you are going to see to it that you are in control of the next meeting, not that it's sort of a random thing that catches you by surprise that you have no control over. Part of what this is about is to get some control over the visceral sensation in that sense. And then the next step is what is actually going to be the plan. And I like this drawing because it is sort of a balancing act between whatever the external situations are in our lives and the internal sensations. In a sense, we as organisms balancing external sensations arising from the external environment, coming to our eyes and ears and nose and skin, and our internal sensations, which are measuring, monitoring what our body's level of homeostasis is. When you're at a 4, when it's ignorable, it means everything is working as it should be. When the system is moving out of the balance, we feel that, we experience that, and we can ignore it, but I'm making the case that we'd be much better off if we take some for it. It must have been entirely convincing because I do not see one question or protest. So anybody got any sensations? Ludova always has sensations, but every time we test her out, we find out that, here we go for it, Ludova. And with you, Ludova, I've learned that it's important to make the distinction between a sensation and a symptom. So the nice thing about this whole system is we don't really need to know details of your medical or life story history. We really can focus on the present, but I believe we have discovered in the past that some of the sensations you've had are related to some underlying medical condition. And then let's see, Ludova, I can't remember, do you like to voice or to text?
I'm pressing the wrong button again.
We can't allow that, Ludova. That's gonna you'll be dinged. You'll have a punishment for that. Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, that's great because mentioning the punishment brought a little humor into the situation, and that eased my chest up.
Chest, the last time we talked, I remember it being in the belly, in the abdomen.
No, I don't get abdomen very often. I get
chest my memory is off on that. What is the problem?
It was throat last time. It was throat last time.
Okay. So right now, as you scan your body, do you have any sensation in your throat?
Not really. It's a symptom what I have.
And you have chest sensations now?
Yeah, I've had a tight chest for almost all day.
And you didn't have it yesterday?
Nope.
Okay, let's figure it out. So right now, how big is the sensation? Is it the size of a ping pong ball or a tennis ball? How large a sensation is it?
It feels like my whole esophagus is tight.
So basketball side? Grapefruit?
No, it's smaller than that. It's like a...
It's like a hot dog?
Like a 6-inch... It's like a 6-inch ruler going up my esophagus.
Okay, 6 inch. That's very nice and visual. And does it fluctuate?
Yes,
it does fluctuate?
Yeah, my chest is still tight.
Is still what? Tight.
It is still tight.
Okay, so try
maybe
this
it's
with
approaching pressure.
And is it fluctuating, or has it been the same since you woke up this morning? Does it fluctuate, or has it been the same all day, Ludo?
It fluctuates.
It fluctuates. And so try this for me. Is there anything you can think of that makes it more or makes it less? And that could be anything. It can be even like, for instance, what does swallowing do anything?
I'll start going through things. When I think about nonprofit commons and missing the meeting this morning, it gets worse.
Wow, good for you. That really shows pretty good insight. And also, in general, we tend not to want it to be stuff like that. We'd rather not have our bodies react to, stuff that we think of as should be under our control or should be just subjective. So it totally makes that credible that you're already a pretty good observer of your body to notice what could be a rather subtle connection, right, between a body sensation and some subtle, financial issues in some unreal world, right? So that's a very good insight. So when are you next going to have to deal with that situation? Is there going to be a meeting coming up?
They meet every Friday.
So you've already met or you're about to meet?
Already met. That's the meeting that I was talking about.
Okay. And so it's going to be again next Friday?
Correct.
Okay. And so as you think about the meeting next week, does it increase that chest sensation?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so let's just here's the sort of the method, I'll call it. Let's switch to that slide again. I got the wrong slide. I don't even know my own slides. So the next step, so you know the source, you know when it's going to come up again, you know you're going to be there. So now step 4 is plot for homeostasis. So what this means is try to think of something you can do or say next Friday that will reduce that chest sensation a little bit. Now,
okay.
my own little ideas, but it's even better if you kind of just try it out. You try out sort of imagining what you might say or do, and then literally watch your chest. Don't ask whether the audience will like what you said, whether it'll be true for all time, whether it will solve all your problems in life. Just ask, as you imagine thinking about dealing with it a little bit differently, some little different way you could do it, where the actual sensation in your chest now, as we sit here, reduces a little.
My office hours will be set on fill in the blank, and they will begin fill in the blank.
They will suggest office hours that they would like.
No, I'm saying that I will tell them what my office hours are.
Well, try on for size different office hours, 24/7 versus 15
No
minutes,
way,
2 in the
24/7.
morning. Try out whether some different possibilities for when and where and how change that sensation. Change the chest sensation. In general, more or less.
I think my office hours will probably be 11:30 to 12:30 on either Tuesday or Thursday.
And when you think about that, does that increase the chest tightness or decrease it?
That took it down some.
Huh. Well, does that seem like just the right time, or would you actually like it to be a little shorter than that?
I don't want it to be any shorter than an hour.
So if you could imagine next Friday telling this group that you have decided that what works best for you is to work for that hour-long period on that day of the week, as you think about saying that, does that lower the chest sensation?
Yes, it does.
Well, do it. Step 5, do it and keep doing it. That's really the whole package. That's the whole program right there. It's that we don't have to take our visceral sensations as annoying and in our way and problematic. It actually is giving us good advice. Basically what that tells me, the chest sensation is related to the diaphragm. It's been studied a lot in air hunger. Air hunger is a whole field of pulmonary medicine that is based on the fact that holding your breath causes a sensation in the chest, this sensation, that some people call heartache, but it's a chest sensation. It's not coming from the heart, it's coming from the diaphragm. And it happens when we are in a state of preparedness. Essentially, it happens when we're wanting. We're wanting something and we're sort of on the blocks of the swimming meet and we're about to have the gun go off and we're about to dive into the water. That's that state we get in.
That's it. I want something and I'm afraid I won't get it.
There it is. So basically, that's what that sensation is telling you. So not
It's
only is
telling
it
me again.
it's good news. You would, if you didn't have that chest sensation, you might not be motivated to want to do something about it. So this is going to be your chance, and it's not like it's a one-time chance. Ultimately, this is a strategy that you can do to recognize any want and when it happens. We have a list of the chest ache sensations too. This is chest ache. Once again, 4 is ignorable. I think you described yourself as a 5. So as you described it, I would have probably given you even a 6 or a 7 as you described it. But then it dropped down. And sort of the really good news is it does go the other way. Even though it can be so severe, so quote at the top, like a heart attack. By the way, that's what when people say they're having withdrawal from alcohol or a drug, that's what they're talking about. They say how they feel terrible. They're not usually saying they feel terrible in their fingertips. They're having an incredible crushing feeling inside their chest. And then they also may be quivering and having other sensations. But the body sensation, chest ache. And and that's the sensation of the bride when the groom doesn't show up at the wedding. Very severe with that too. It's not just wanting a drug or some other substance. And it can vary. And on the other extreme, you can feel very open, very comfortable and open and even expanded in the chest. So paying attention to that, I find to be a very useful sensation to track because it's telling me what I want, telling me what I'm hurrying for. So when I feel a little chest tightness of 4.5, that encourages me to look and see what's going on. And often what's going on is I'm a little bit in a hurry. And when I think about why, there's no good reason. And that's a nice moment. Realize I'm in a hurry, but at the moment there is no. You can sort of sigh and it feels kind of good and you get a little moment of a nice sort of meditative moment. Realize you've been wanting and you really don't need it. So that was a perfect example, Ludovico, and good luck.
Thank you.
Want us all to show up and demand that you only get those hours? Maybe picket?
Well, our wisdom will be there.
Okay, well, that's even worse. She'll shame them. Well, that is 2:29, and so Inner Wisdom has discovered that that half an hour is a good length of time.
Yeah.
For
I
these
did
kinds
ask.
of events.
I did ask a question in local chat.
About road rage.
Yeah, I said, could this help with road rage?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly should, but technically that person is not wanting, right? That person is angry. So that's really its own topic. Uh, One could almost, it's a whole topic in itself, and I think we should do that one, but it's actually a different drive, and it's a different sensation in the body, and the same thing applies. If you're feeling yourself getting more and more tense, and know that you're heading to eventually being socially inappropriate and possibly violent, then yes, the same system applies. Feel your neck muscles tighten.
And we could go on to this some other time. I'm just thinking as a therapist how having things that help people with something like that.
You're the first time it's ever come up. For some reason, we got started where most people were worried about getting broken up with by their boyfriend or girlfriend in Second Life here. But overall, the top topic has always seemed to have been anxiousness. But I myself find focusing on neck tension and how to track and pay attention to that in the early phases before it becomes severe is the same thing applies there.
That would be really interesting to go into.
We will do it.
I'd like to be a half hour on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next week you all know he's here Monday at 12:30 and Thursday at 7:30 a.m. and Friday at what time is it? 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
SLT.
And we're open to change that a little bit. I'm so much like 2 o'clock better than 3:30 was, and that was a great idea.
Well, yeah, because it helps me a lot too. So thank you.
Good, good.
All right. So hope we see you guys again. And if you have topics like that, things that you're wondering about, please let David or me know, and then we can, fold them into what we're doing.
Thanks so much, Wisdom. It's fun.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.